Welcome back, Barefoot crew. Barefoot Will here, back with yet another barefoot shoe review. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Nova from Wyde footwear. Now, before we get into the rest of the video, if you decide to buy yourself a pair of Wyde Novas, be sure to use the code BarefootWill, no spaces at checkout, and that will apply a 10% discount to your order. So first thing I want to point out with the Nova is that it is different, and it is different on purpose. Rasmus and Melker from Wyde Footwear purposefully designed this shoe to be quite a bit different than your typical barefoot shoe for multiple different reasons, which we're going to go over today. And to me, they hit the nail on the head for what they were trying to achieve. And the first notable difference is the aesthetic appeal. This shoe definitely looks absolutely incredible. The shoe just has a little bit more of a robust look to it. And to me, the shoe not only looks more robust, it feels really robust. And we're going to get into the feel a little bit more, but staying on an aesthetic appeal, it's got a little bit of a Nike Air Force One look to it, especially if you look down here at the sole, you'll kind of notice that similar pattern. But the all leather, all white leather look definitely kind of gives a little bit of a resemblance. This shoe does come in a few different material options aside from the leather option, but they ended up sending me the white on white leather version, which is absolutely incredible looking. And I have found that this shoe fits really well in multiple different style scenarios. You can really tell that there is a ton of attention to detail as far as the style goes. There are multiple different components that are stitched onto the shoe, and the stitching is one of my favorite parts. A lot of the stitching is also not only going to look really good, but provide a lot more of that sustainability and durability. Some double stitching around the front of the shoe, and for the lesser needed components that there is just a little bit of more of like a robust single stitch. They did a good job of kind of showcasing the brand a little bit more boldly without going over the top. So you're going to get the Wyde logo on the sides of both sides of the shoe. You're going to have a very small Wyde footwear logo that is in a little bit of a gold color. You're going to have a stitched on tag just at the top of the tongue, and one more embroidered logo back here on the rear pull tab. And then once more, very, very vaguely, you can see logo down here on the bottom of the sole. There is so much attention to detail as far as style goes on this shoe. I just feel like they did such a good job. Next thing I want to talk about is the specs of the shoe, which is pretty important and notably different than most other typical barefoot shoes. This shoe does have a little bit higher stack height. So you're going to get a base of 10 millimeter stack height. In addition to that 10 millimeter stack height through the base of the sole, there is a very thin insole inside as well. If I had to take a guess on the thickness of this, it's probably between 2 to 3 millimeters. With that additional stack height comes with a little bit more rigidity. Now, this shoe is noticeably more sturdy feeling than your typical barefoot shoe. You're not going to be able to roll this up, but that's what their intention again was behind this shoe, is providing a little bit more stack height, which means a little bit more cushion, which means it applies very well to the life of modernity. Most of us are walking around concrete, paved surfaces, hard tile, hardwood floors, and we need a little bit of cushion on occasion, and this shoe definitely provides that. Now, I will say, despite the added little bit of rigidity or bulk to the shoe, it is flexible where it needs to be. So I am getting just a little bit more flexibility out of the toe of the shoe. Now, one little downfall that I've personally noticed, and I think a lot of this has to do with the leather component combined with the stack height, and that is something called flex bite. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what this term means, basically when you go into the position here where you're kind of pushing off with the toe, there is just a little bit of scrunching that happens. You can almost see that where it's been repeatedly happening for me, and that does push into the top of my big toe a little bit. Towards the end of the day, I kind of start to notice it as the day progresses. It's not something that is necessarily super bothersome, but I have started to notice that there is a little bit of trend when you're wearing them throughout the day. Now, it may seem pretty obvious, but the application of this shoe is more of a streetwear everyday type of shoe. This is not exactly a shoe that I would wear into the gym. Wyde did release what is called the Hallex Active to serve that purpose, and the purpose of this shoe is going to be more of the streetwear everyday type of shoe. And with a streetwear shoe, that means you're typically going to be wearing it for a long period of time. And I spoke at a conference for 2 days straight, and I did wear this shoe. And I noticed that this shoe was extremely comfortable for being on my feet, literally 10 to 12 hours both days. I found that the added stack height and a little bit of cushion to this shoe really helped being on my feet through the longevity of both days. The only little bit of discomfort did come from that small bit of flex bite in the toe. Once again, I think that's due to the leather composition. Sticking with specs for just a little bit longer, the composition of the shoe does make the shoe just a little bit heavier. So you've got a nice thick rubber sole with a lot of leather on top of the sole. So that does increase the weight of the shoe, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the shoe is incredibly heavy. It's probably just as voluminous or heavy as most of your conventional shoes that are within a similar style. And this shoe does have a detached tongue, which is really good for people with higher volume feet and a little bit thicker ankles. That just gives you the availability to get the shoe on, loosen the laces just a little bit more to accept a little bit higher volume foot. I personally have more of a lower volume foot, so you can notice that I have the laces just a little bit more tight around the foot to keep it hugged. But even as a low volume foot person, it actually feels quite good to have the availability to cinch the shoe down to my foot just a little bit more. Now let's talk a little bit about their signature toe box. You know that a toe box in any type of shoe is my personal most important component, and this shoe has one of the widest toe boxes that you will find on any shoe in existence. It is most anatomically aligned, anatomically functional, natural foot shaped, however you want to put it. This toe box definitely reflects the shape and function of the human foot. And that is one of Wyde's #1 priorities. They really know and apply the importance of having a properly shaped toe box for foot function inside of a shoe. I have absolutely zero restriction. If anything, I actually have a little bit of extra room in the toe box, which is nice because it is a little bit harder for me to find a toe box that does accept my super wide toe splay, and this one accepts it perfectly. The only other barefoot shoe or minimalist shoe brand that has a toe box that comes anywhere close to the width of this, I think would be Softstar. And even on their shoes, to me, Softstar shoes don't quite look as aesthetically appealing in comparison to the toe box on the Wyde shoes. And me personally, I find it very reaffirming that Wyde refuses to compromise on the last that they're using to create such a wide toe box. To me, their mission is natural foot function over anything else, and the toe box definitely reflects that. The size of this shoe is right on par. It fits me absolutely like a glove. I typically wear a men's 10.5, and this is a 43, which is also what I wear in most minimalist shoes, and this shoe fits me absolutely perfectly. The price point for this shoe is going to be about $239 if you are inside the States, which is maybe a little bit more on the pricey end. However, I think it is 100% justified for the quality of the shoe. I can see this shoe lasting for years and years and years. Wyde Footwear is a brand out of Sweden, and I've had the personal opportunity to talk to one of the two brothers. I've talked to Melker quite a bit throughout the development of Wyde Footwear since the very beginning, and it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know him and kind of see the inside process of the development, a little bit of behind the scenes. And these two brothers have put in so much time, dedication, thought behind releasing these shoes to the public. They have went through tons and tons and tons of iterations of every single shoe that they put out, and you can really tell the research that they've done. They went and completed a study in Sri Lanka just to put the research behind what they are putting into their shoes, and to me that speaks an enormous amount of volumes. Lucky for y'all, if you do choose to buy this shoe, you can use my code BarefootWill at checkout, no spaces, and that will give you a 10% discount. Something I want to give you a sneak peek of is the Hallex Active from Wyde. So I'll give you just a little bit of a sneak peek. If you haven't seen this shoe already, definitely check it out on their website. I will have a review coming for this shoe very, very soon, probably within the next week or so. And I just want to give you a glimpse of the differences between the Hallex 1, their initial debut shoe for Wyde footwear, in contrast to the Hallex Active. Much needed upgrades to the Hallex shoe itself. To me, this is one of the most incredible active style, minimalist style shoes that I have tested yet to date, but I'll save a lot of the details for that review. So be sure to hit that subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss this review. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up the review of the Wyde Footwear Nova. If you have any specific questions on this specific shoe, be sure to drop your comments below. And if you haven't already, drop me a subscribe or follow, and do me a favor and like this video as well. I'm trying to get this YouTube channel to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. Every little bit counts, and I would appreciate that a ton. I have a lot of new stuff upcoming. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you on the next review.